Good morning and welcome. It is 10:03 a.m. and a quorum of 20 voters being present. This meeting will now come to order. I am all of you to Sherborn's 244. Thank you for your cooperation in enabling a very crowded gathering to proceed as scheduled. Please continue to remain masked and to keep adequate social distance. I'd also like to welcome those who are watching from home via live streaming. And with the recent news from the CDC, I'm sure it's everyone's hope that next April we will be back together, all of us in person. One thing I just want to comment on, these flags here are more than an expression of patriotism. They are for the people up here on the stage to use if they wish to speak, and that is not to me, but to the audio-visual people. With everyone wearing masks, it's sometimes difficult for those folks to tell who is speaking and who to train the camera on. So this just lets them know I'm the person whose mouth is open. I would like to take just a minute to acknowledge the really extraordinary efforts of a few key people who have worked especially hard to make this meeting happen in this location, allowing us to continue our annual town meeting tradition in as safe an environment as possible. First, Town Clerk Jackie Morris. Next, sure. How about this? Hold your applause till the end. Next, DPW Director Sean Colleen and Administrative Assistant Addie Mae Weiss. Also, Assistant Town Administrator Diane Moores and her Administrative Assistant Jeannie Guthrie, who have kept the wheels oiled and the train moving forward. I'd like to thank Police Chief Dave Bento and finally Fire Chief Zach Ward, Chair of the town's COVID-19 response team, who has coordinated among various stakeholders to ensure that the end result here is one we can all be proud of. There are many others who have also contributed to making this meeting happen, but they are too numerous to mention, excuse me, because we are lucky to live in a wonderful town with wonderful neighbors and non-resident employees as well, all of whom contribute every day to making Sherborn the place we love. So if you want to applaud for those people now. Great. So the return of the warrant and the tellers. Town Clerk Jacqueline Morris has confirmed that the warrant has been properly posted by the constable and that the tellers for this meeting have been properly sworn in. If you wish to leave the main room here for any reason, please do so through the doors in the rear of the garage. In all cases, if you leave this venue, you must leave your clicker and ballot with one of the officials in the rear bay where you registered when you came in. This is particularly important for, excuse me, with so many folks sitting and standing outside. If you leave but plan to return to the meeting, you must ask for a pass as you leave so that you can reclaim your ballot and voting card. Please set your cell phones to courtesy mode, and if you must take a call, please leave the area through the rear doors or stand apart from others outside as unobtrusively as possible. We always welcome non-voters to our town meetings. If you are a non-voter, you should have received a name tag to wear, and you must sit in the non-voter section located outside by the rear of the garage to my right. And I would ask everyone who is a registered voter to continue wearing your voting card around your neck, and that will, in addition to your name and address, that will show me if you approach the microphone that you are indeed a registered voter, as those are the people who are allowed to speak at this meeting. Anyone not wearing a mask or face covering must be seated in the designated area at the rear of the canopy section to my left. I don't think we have any of those people right now. Finally, and most importantly, please keep in mind the importance of civility in public discourse, particularly in a small town such as ours. We should all assume in others the same good intentions we hold ourselves, and we must treat each other with the respect and goodwill with which we ourselves would like to be treated. The motions this morning will be initiated by Advisory Committee Chair Stephen Tsai and Committee Vice Chair Jane Matarazzo, both seated here in the stage area to my right. Also seated on the stage area to my right are the members of the Select Board, Chair Eric Johnson, Vice Chair George Morrill, and members Paul Durensis and Jeff Waldron. On the stage area to my left are Town Council Amanda Zaretti of Petrini Associates and Town Clerk Jacqueline Morris. Present in the audience are Assistant Town Administrator Diane Moores and Accountant Deb Seifring. The head teller is Janet Walsh. In an effort to keep town meeting as short as possible, the advisory chair, Stephen Tsai, will not be speaking this morning, but rather directs you to the introductory letter of the advisory report, which encapsulates the advisory committee's outlook on the town's current financial situation. Select Board Chair Eric Johnson has some brief remarks. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just wanted to welcome everyone to town meeting. This is a legislative body of the town, uniquely composed of its citizens. We have adjusted for the last two town meetings for COVID considerations, but yet this government body still goes strong. Specifically in this town, this government body has survived 1793 yellow fever, 19th century cholera, 1900s typhoid, and a 1918 flu. So I think we're fine now. I'm very pleased to see such a high attendance here. We've definitely exceeded our quorum of 20 that we're worried about during the COVID concerns. The high attendance, I believe, is due to some high-profile articles, and that's great. It's evidenced by the chatter in social media and ubiquitous lawn signs throughout the community. I want to remind people, no matter what the results are, that we are all neighbors at the end of the day. Some of you will not be happy with results, and some of you will be happy with results, but no matter what, we are one community. So I just want to thank you all for your participation. For those of you that don't regularly volunteer in the process of town government, there's always opportunities to do so, and I encourage you to reach out to the Select Board office and reach out to the town webpage and to see what opportunities are out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a point of correction, Janet Walsh is not present today, so Renee Montella is the head teller. Although many of you are aware of the parliamentary procedures we will follow during the meeting, I will review them for anyone new to town meeting and so that everyone understands the way that we will conduct this morning's business in a fair, orderly, and predictable manner that will allow all to be heard while ensuring that the meeting moves along without unnecessary delays. The agenda for this morning's town meeting is the warrant, which was prepared by the Board of Selectmen and is contained in the Advisory Committee's report to the town, which was mailed to each household and posted on the town's website. The deliberation we will conduct for each item on the warrant will be initiated in most cases by a motion and a second from the Advisory Committee. Discussion will follow and then a vote. Some articles will begin with a 5-minute presentation by the proponent of the article, who has previously filed a presentation request form with me, and in a couple of instances, there will be a presentation from pre-identified opponents of an article. Following all formal presentations, we will open the floor to all others who wish to speak in discussion of the motion currently on the floor. To speak on a motion, you must be recognized by the moderator. To be recognized, please step to one of the microphones here in the center aisles. And when you reach the microphone, please state your name and address and immediately begin your question or comment. Please do not approach a microphone until there are only 2 other people in line ahead of you, and please keep 6-foot distance between you and the person in front of you. Comments must be relevant to the motion at hand, and they must be limited to 2 minutes. Please be especially cognizant of the special conditions under which we are meeting this year, and please keep all comments as brief as possible. I also ask you to comment only if you have new information to add to what has already been said. You may speak a second time once everyone has had the opportunity to speak once, but again, please speak only if you have new information that moves the debate forward. We have a timekeeper here at the front who will signal with a red card that the speaker is within 10 seconds of the time limit. Can you put that up? I ask all speakers to be aware of that red card, and when you see it, please finish up what you were saying. With a crowd this large and with so many articles to deal with, I intend to be fair but firm, quite firm, in enforcing time limits. And I ask you to be gracious and considerate of your neighbors by winding up before I would need to intervene. All motions and amendments to motions must be submitted in writing to the town clerk. Forms for this purpose are available from Renee Montella. Renee, are you visible right now? She's probably in the check-in area. This is Renee. If you can just raise your hand, Renee, so people can see who you are. No more than 2 amendments can be on the floor at the same time. A vote is first taken on any amendments and then on the main motion itself. If more than 1 amendment is on the floor and the amendments include number of units or lengths of time, the largest number of units and the longest lengths of time will be considered first. Consent agendas. Again this year, in the hope of limiting the duration of the meeting, we will be using consent agendas to save time by dispensing with separate motions, debate, and votes on articles that we predict from past experience are likely to pass either unanimously or nearly unanimously. For each consent agenda, there will be a single motion and a single vote, and there will be no debate on the motion. If anyone desires to comment on or has a question on one of the articles or line items contained in a consent agenda, you may call hold on that article or line item when I read its title, just like we do when I read the totals in the omnibus budget. I will remove that article or line item from the consent agenda, and we will vote it separately following the vote on the non-held articles or line items with the opportunity for a full debate. In selecting articles for the consent agendas, we have used the following criteria. The article is a routine article that has appeared regularly on the warrant in recent years, or it is a housekeeping type article that enables the town to conduct its business more efficiently. The meaning of the action advocated by advisory's recommendation is clearly explained in the advisory committee report, and it is reasonable to expect that the individual motions under this article would pass with little or no controversy. None of the articles in any of the consent agendas will have an impact on the FY 2022 Omnibus budget. This morning, we will have 3 consent agendas. One for Articles 1 through 7, one for Articles 11 through 13, and we will treat most lines of the Capital Improvement Program, Article 10, as a consent calendar as well. Again, anyone wishing to discuss a particular article or line item in a consent agenda simply needs to call a hold when I read the title of that article or line item, and I will set it aside for discussion after all non-held articles or line items are voted. Because we are using a number of consent agendas with the opportunity for items to be held and amendments to be made, I ask your patience as we try to provide slides that will be created on the fly for those amendments or we have a couple of alternate motions. So a last procedural point. I will read only the number of each article and a title that is the summary of an article. The full text of each article appears in the advisory committee report, as does advisory's recommendation. The slide that will appear up here for the voting and so forth will also be a summary of the motion. The full language of the motion will be recited by a member of the advisory committee. We will be using electronic voting at today's meeting. When you checked in this morning, you received a handset to be used for this electronic voting. As you leave, please deposit your handset in the boxes provided at the exits. Be assured that each vote you cast will be completely anonymous. There is no record of which handset was issued to each voter. As to the mechanics of voting with the handsets, each eligible voter has a response card keypad. For each vote, push the button with the number that corresponds with the vote you to be for nay. If you push the wrong button by mistake, that's all right. Delete a vote in any way in order to correct it. The last button that you push before voting is closed is the vote that will register. You will receive immediate feedback when your vote is recorded. A successful yes vote will show on your keypad here with a green light and 1A illuminated. A successful no vote will show a green light and 2B on your screen, on your clicker. If your vote does not register, you will see a red light and a circle with a line through it on the LCD screen. If you get please raise your hand and a poll worker will bring you a new handset and will collect the non-functioning one. You may begin voting as soon as discussion has been closed, but when I announce please vote now, a countdown clock will appear on the screen and you will have 10 seconds to finalize your vote. During that time, you may change your vote simply by pressing the other button from your original choice. So as I stated earlier, the last button you push before voting is closed is the vote that will register. When the countdown clock reaches 0, all votes are locked in and the results will appear on the screen. For articles where a 2/3 vote is required, the results will show first as numbers and then will toggle to a percent so that you will be assured that the moderator is not the one doing the math, which is good for all of you. One final note. As has always been the case, only votes cast are counted. So adding the yes votes and no votes may produce different totals from article to article. This does not mean that there is something wrong. It means only that some voters chose to abstain on a particular article. Again, if your handset fails in some way, please raise your hand and a poll worker will bring you a new one and collect the non-functioning one. Since we learn best by doing, let's try a couple of sample votes. Okay. The question here is about how the town of Sherborn got its name. You should assume that there has been discussion about the question and that discussion is now closed. So I ask you to please vote now. Okay. 237 people believe that that is true, and 101 people believe that is incorrect. The ayes have it. All right. So, okay. Let's try one more. Yes, excuse me. Does someone have a clicker who's not working? Are we all good here to try another one? Okay. Next question. Will the Red Sox win the World Series? Again, pretending that debate on this question has closed, I ask you to please vote now. Oh, come on. You're doubters. All right. The ayes 148 and the nays 214. And I've always been proud to be a resident of this town, but I don't know, people. You've disappointed me deeply. If Ed could toggle this one just so that people can see what the percentage would be on this. 41% say yes, 59% say no. I guess the 59% have started their countdown to elimination day. We'll see. All right. So, to begin with the consent calendar, this is the real thing now, folks, for Articles 1 to 7. Mr. Sy.
Madam Moderator, I move that Articles 1 through 7 be considered together as consent agenda articles, where such articles are routine and typically approved without significant debate, and with such articles moved for favorable action as set forth in the advisory report and with the following additional information.
Mr. Sy, just before you start to read that, I'm going to read the actual titles of each, so that if somebody wants to call a hold. Okay. Article 1, Annual Reports. Article 2, FY 2021 Supplemental Appropriations. Article 3, OPEB Trust Fund. Article 4, Bond Premiums. Article 5, Improvement, Embellishment of Cemeteries. Article 6, Revolving Funds. Article 7, Stabilization Funds. All right. No holds.
Continuing my motion, we move favorable action with the following additional information. Article with $326,096.10 to be transferred from free cash in the Treasury for the purpose of supplementing the following fiscal year 2021 budget lines through covering corresponding FY 2021 deficits that remain. Snow and ice removal, $113,834.60. Police overtime, $87,261.50. Ambulance, $100,000. Farm pond, $25,000. Article 3, OPEB trust fund, that $100,000 from free cash in the Treasury be transferred to the OPEB liability trust fund. Article 5, cemeteries, that $10,000 be transferred from the cemetery enlargement fund for the purposes set forth in the warrant. Article 6, revolving fund fiscal year 2022 expenditure limits. Council on Aging revolving fund, $75,000. Board of Health revolving fund, $20,000. Recycling revolving fund, $1,065. Town Forest revolving fund, $35,000. Farm Pond revolving fund, $160,000. Ambulance revolving fund, $375,000. Elder Housing revolving fund, $351,109. Park and Recreation revolving fund, $250,000. DPW Fire and Police Surplus Equipment Fund, $50,000. Article 7, stabilization funds, that $374,185 from free cash in the Treasury be transferred to the General Stabilization Fund.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Since there is no debate on a consent agenda, I will now call for the vote. Please vote now. The slide has an error on it. This is for Articles 1 through 7, not 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay. The total is 363 aye, 12 nay. Article passes. Article 8, Omnibus Budget.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Sy.
I will now be making a motion for the fiscal year 2022 omnibus budget. Following my motion and prior to any discussion or vote, the moderator will read the line items of the omnibus budget, which express the total appropriations for each department. As the moderator will explain further after my motion, if anyone wishes to discuss any line item, please indicate by stating loudly, "Hold." I want to point out one minor error in the omnibus budget as printed in the advisory report. For the Department of Public Works, the salaries line should be $620,194, and the expenses should be $534,850. The total DPW budget is unchanged, and this was a simple scrivener's error. I move that the totals for each department represented by the numbered items appearing in the Advisory Committee's fiscal year 2022 Omnibus Budget Report to the town in the column headed Final FY22 Advisory Recommendation be called over by the moderator, and if no objection is made, that such amounts be raised and appropriated for the purpose specified, except that where a transfer is indicated by a numbered footnote, the specified amount shall be provided by such transfer. that the salaries for the various town officers, including those indicated by numbered footnotes, be fixed effective July 1st, 2021, as specified in the omnibus budget that becomes effective pursuant to this motion, and that any item to which objection is made be separately considered and disposed of in accordance with the vote of the town.
Second.
Thank you. All right, so I will now read the totals for each department in the omnibus budget. If anyone wishes to call a hold to discuss or amend any one of the line items that I read, please very clearly call out hold. I will remove it from the budget for now, and we will address it later.
A point to order, Madam Moderator.
Yes, Mr. Johnson.
Do you want the select board's vote at this point or perhaps after it is read?
Why don't we wait until after it's read? Okay. Select board total $403,000. Sorry, 403,281. Legal, $80,000. Assessors total, $153,954,000. Treasurer's total, $94,409. Collector, $153,346. Finance Director, $305,649. Advisory Committee, $4,013. Conservation Commission, $68,835. Planning Board, $52,227. Town Clerk, $152,013. Election and Registration, $22,887. Town Buildings, $315,684. Police, $2,138,382. Fire and Rescue, $539,098. Ambulance, $190,000. Inspectors, $108,486. Dover-Sherborn Regional Assessment, $10,205,111. Tri-County Vocational, $34,967. Sherborn Schools, $7,001,886. DPW total, $1,155,044. Snow and ice, $86,110. Street lighting, $26,000. Solid waste, $336,875. Recycling, $3,230. Cemeteries, $75,500. Board of Health, $147,940. Council on Aging, $165,657. Veterans, $6,490. Library, $564,735. Recreation, $15,000. Historical Commission, $1,300. Insurance and employee benefits, $2 million. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
General insurance.
Insurance, 171.
I have general, I'm sorry, yes. General insurance, $171,279. Employee benefits, including OPEB and retirement, $2,970,218. Debt service, $1,486,408. Reserve account, $300,000. No, there were no holds on the omnibus budget. So we will now vote the entire omnibus budget. Please vote now. The votes are 382 yes, 25 no. Article passes. I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson, I forgot to go back to you.
That's okay. We were unanimous, 400
right,
support
thank
on
you.
this budget.
I won't make that mistake again. Right. Article 9,
Madam Moderator,
Ms. Matarazzo.
I move favorable action and that the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, be authorized to borrow up to $1 million for the purpose of design and construction of a new unlighted turf athletic field at Laurel Farm pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7(1), or any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the town therefore. And in accordance with General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 20, authorize any premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bonds or notes, to be applied to the payment of costs approved hereunder, thereby reducing by a like amount the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs for the said purpose. And number, approval by the voters of a Proposition 2.5, so-called debt exclusion question pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 21CK. And also to establish a stabilization fund under the Recreation Commission to be funded from the Recreation Revolving Fund for the purpose of repairing, resurfacing, or replacing the said field, provided, however, that field fees shall be first applied to debt service for said borrowing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a presentation by the proponent of Article 9, Chair of the Recreation Commission, Dave Goldberg. Accompanying, yes, right over here. Accompanying Dave is a consultant who is the expert. If there are technical questions, he will not comment pro or con. He will simply answer technical questions if anyone has them.
How do I advance the slides? Do I just, all right, perfect. Thanks, everybody. So as Mary Wolf said, I'm accompanied by Ron Myrick, who's a Massachusetts professional engineer and a licensed state site professional, and he happens to be a Dover resident. And he's here to assist in any questions around the chemistry of the field. So why are we looking to build a new field? Our objectives from the beginning were to provide a better playing experience for our youth sports teams, whether they're playing on grass or on artificial turf. The turf will provide not only early and late season play, which we can't accommodate now on our grass fields, but it will allow us to protect our investment in our grass fields by moving games and practices to the turf field when the grass is particularly vulnerable. It essentially eliminates all of our canceled games and practices. These additional hours provide revenue that will end up paying for the field and the borrowed money, as well as allow us to invest in other recreation projects. So also included in the project is a major upgrade to the parking facility at Laurel. So you can see here a rendering of the field, the orientation, the location, as well as the upgrades to the parking, which is that orange area. In this particular rendering, it's lined for 2 soccer fields, but it can be used for any sport and it will play in either direction. The overall budget, as was stated, is around $4 million, which, as the article states, $1 million to be borrowed from the town after successfully raising $3 million through private funds. Similar to the town-funded project at Woodhaven, the field is essentially an asset which generates revenue, which can pay back the money that's being borrowed. We've been conservative in limiting our borrowing to an amount where the field's expected to generate more than double the amount that we need to pay back from the loan service. I've been asked this many times, which is an analysis of grass versus turf. And so here you can see, and I realize there's a lot of stuff on the slide here, but we did an analysis over a 20-year period. The yearly cost over that time for both grass and turf, it's about $153,000 for turf versus $176,000 to maintain the grass at a much higher standard than we have today, but that would make it much more playable. You can see the costs are relatively close, but that's not the important point, and it's difficult to see in this slide, but grass only provides about 500 hours of playable time per year, whereas turf is about 1,600. So when you actually calculate the cost per playable hour, the advantage is fairly significantly towards turf. And again, those additional hours generate the revenue that allows us to pay back the money that we're borrowing from the town and invest in other projects. So turf fields have been installed for decades. They're nothing new, and they've been well studied to this point. And from the beginning, we wanted to make sure that we were choosing a safe alternative. There are tens of thousands of fields all over the US and even more if you go abroad. And there's been decades of monitoring both by government and by private studies. There's overwhelming evidence at this point to support that turf is safe. And you can see here a partial list of government bodies that actually publicly state that turf is safe. As much as possible, we wanted to choose sustainable, recyclable, and natural products. So barring any unknown issues, we intend to design the field using a product called Brockfill, which is made of wood. It's grown sustainably down in Georgia, and it would replace the crumb rubber. It's 100% Martha's Vineyard, so we have some recent studies that have been. The successful vote is to raise the money for a full engineering and design. That includes the precise location of the field, the materials, catch basins, filtration, all of the details about the field. And those plans are what get submitted to the town for approval by the various committees. And that's the typical process for any construction project. That effort takes months and months, and we estimate it's going to cost us about $100,000 to $150,000, which again, we'll raise privately. But before we went through that, it stands to reason that we would ask the town if you want us to proceed. So when you consider your vote today, I'd encourage you to keep 3 things in mind. 1, our choice of infill is organic wood. 2, that these fields have been studied many, many times by government organizations and private organizations that have deemed them to be safe. And 3, the next step is to work on the full engineering plan that we'll submit to the town. So in conclusion, when completed, the field we will have a safe field to play on. It will provide a better playing experience for our youth sports teams and be an asset to the town for years to come. That's it. Did I do it under 5 minutes?
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. I know I didn't say this before, but I do ask, hold all applause, hold all non-applause, shall I say? This is not the time for that. Thank you. We now have a presentation in opposition to this article from Tom Trainer, who represents the Groundwater Committee.
Where are the slides?
Trainer slides.
While we're waiting for those, let me just introduce myself, although are those slides coming up?
Pardon me?
Are the slides coming up?
They will be there. They should be.
I don't want to lose.
Is there a problem? Okay. It should be listed under trainer, Trainor.
While they're waiting, my name is Tom Trainer. I live at 97 Washington Street. I'm a 25-year resident in town. I'm currently on 3 volunteer town committees. I'm in opposition to this article for many reasons.
Just a minute, Tom, because you don't, are the slides up? No, so I don't want you to start your time until they are up there. He has 5.
Madam Moderator, during this time, can I give the Select Board report?
Sure.
On April 1st, 2021, the Select Board voted 3-4, 1 opposed, 0 abstained for this article. Okay, that's 3 in favor, 1 against. I was just clarified.
I have it on a thumb drive.
I forgot to bring any jokes.
No.
Let me know if you want to look at it, like that's ours. Good. Thank you. Camped out.
Well, they have to do it in order because he's the one that's filed as the opposition. He gets 5 minutes instead of comments. I know.
Garcia, how are you?
I know, they should have had him right in order. I know.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what happened, but whatever. We're good now.
I think these slides are going to be appreciated now that they waited so long.
Okay.
Me too. Well, I didn't.
All right, Tom, you can start your 5 now.
Thank you. Tom Trainer, 97 Washington Street, 25-year resident. I'm currently on 3 volunteer town committees. I am in opposition to this article for many reasons, but here I want to focus on just one, the potential impact to Sherborn's limited groundwater resources. We just learned that finally the Rec Commission is considering a more natural infill. That is great news, but that is about 1/3 the story. This field really involves 3 acres of synthetic plastic. I want to committee. The last 4 years, I've learned water resources. Please take a distant 10,000-foot view of this slide. On the left is a map of Sherborn. Regions identify the highest yielding groundwater aquifers. Note the pattern of locations, primarily at the borders of our town. In a minute, I will focus on this northern border. But let me first state 2 important facts if you're not aware of them already. First, our town center is not located above any of these blue areas and is quite constrained now by many private and small public wells, all drawing water near septic fields. This has caused everyone a lot of trouble. The deepest blue region around Farm Pond, it has unfortunately all private land around it, making any town well placements there difficult. And I, for one, do not advocating converting Farm Pond back to a restricted reservoir as the state did about 100 years ago. Now we're getting closer to Laurel Fields. Please just focus on the left side text. Our 3 elected water commissioners gave an update at the 2017 town meeting on a study to determine the feasibility of building a limited town center water district with a large public well and/or limited town center wastewater sewer district. They decided on the one best site to be just north of here on conservation land off Morse Road. They were attracted to that location because it's within one of our primary aquifers close to downtown. An initial test well was drilled, but no further work has occurred. Even so, I believe it very important to realize the significance of that location and that test well. Eventually, Sherborn is going to have to do something big to deal with town center water and wastewater issues. My message today is, why don't we keep all our future options open and protect vigorously all major aquifers in town? Lastly, here's the northern aquifer region. Marked are the approximate locations of where we now sit at the DPW, the test well, and Laurel. Both and groundwater protection committees have serious concern of citing this proposed 3 acres of synthetic plastic in such an important zone on public land. Of course, our closed and unlined landfill at the transfer station is also nearby. Our town officials have been testing monitoring wells surrounding this landfill and are following closely any observed contamination in this area. Let's not keep adding to contaminants in this aquifer. Last slide. I wanted to post here in short form the 3 recommendations that the Groundwater Protection Committee came out in our fact sheet on this article just at our last meeting. We posted 3 recommendations, and these are abbreviated, but number 1, invest instead in natural grass fields. They don't have to be monitored with testing wells like many of these artificial turf fields have to be. Or number 2, consider relocating the project to an alternate site, not in such proximity to a major aquifer. And number 3, if you approve it, if you fund it, $4 million, public-private partnership, ensure a natural or plant-based material be used for the infill instead of the quite toxic, more common infill of the ground rubber, which we've heard they are stating they will. And that's
10 seconds, Tom.
So thank you for your attention. I look forward to the coming debate on this article.
So, no, please, I have asked no applause during deliberation. All right, so the motion has been made and seconded. I now open the floor for discussion. I ask you not to approach the microphone. I ask you not to approach the microphone. Excuse me. I ask you not to approach the microphone until there are only 2 people in front of you. So there should be no more than 3 people lined up at a microphone at a time. And please maintain 6-foot distance. And please wear a mask while speaking. Other people are going to be using the same mic. All right, I will swap back and forth, right and left. Richard?
Richard Robinson, 117 Mill Street. I'm happy to wear a mask while I'm talking. I'd just like to say that for many of us who are hard of hearing, it makes it very, very hard to understand what's being said when the speaker is wearing a mask. I think it would be fair to allow speakers to do so. Since I'm talking, I don't care. I think there are several important reasons to oppose this project at this time and probably going forward. One is strictly procedural, and that is we have still not seen in writing as a town the exact wording of this motion. The words that showed up on the screen here were the same words that we saw in the advisory report. They're not the motion that we're being asked to vote on. There's quite a bit of verbiage in that motion that unless you have an orogenic, whatever the corresponding thing is for photogenic memory, you really have no idea what you're voting for. I don't think that's good procedure, and I think that should be enough to put this issue off. That's just not the way that votes should be taken when town money's at stake. Furthermore, there's been no plan submitted for this proposal. We're all taking it on the assurances of the Recreation Committee, in whom I have a great deal of trust that they mean what they say. But we have no plan that we're actually looking at, including no plan for what the material is going to be. We have statements about what is and what may not be part of it, but there's nothing, in fact, on paper that says what the materials are. Furthermore,
10 seconds, Richard.
I'll make 2 more quick points. Furthermore, this is the last potential point at which this issue is going to be in front of the voters and in front of any regulatory authority. And finally, we have an outstanding, uncompleted discretionary project that we still don't know how much we're going to be paying for. Until we know that, I'm opposed to other borrowing for other discretionary projects.
Thank you, Richard.
Kara Ahola, 71 South Main Street, 21-year Sherborn resident. I'm speaking to address the concern around contamination of groundwater. There is zero evidence that turf fields such as the one being considered here would contaminate groundwater. The town of Concord built their turf field directly over their public aquifer. Following is the conclusion of their comprehensive study. Based on this review of at least 9 case studies, the overall weight of evidence strongly suggests that the installation of a new synthetic turf field at Concord Carlisle Regional High School will have no adverse effect on groundwater quality. Generally speaking, the studies reviewed in the literature were either negative or when a metal or organic chemical related to tire crumb rubber was detected, and tire crumb rubber is not part of our turf proposal. The levels were below the safe risk-based standard. Of all of the studies examined, the Fenn study deserves special attention because it is within the same town and well field that is below the proposed Concord-Carlisle Regional High School facility, and is the only study to regularly monitor groundwater on a quarterly basis for an extended period of time of greater than 2 years. This study confirmed the prediction by Haley and Aldrich that neither metals nor organic compounds from synthetic turf materials would contaminate groundwater, and therefore exposure to any site-related constituents of concern would be well below risk-based standards. There is no risk to the groundwater beneath these proposed turf fields. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dan Sickle from 116 Lake Street. I'm a 9-year resident of Sherborn. So it's great to be here today. Great to see so many people out on what's maybe the best weather day of the year so far. And it's wonderful for me to get a break from paper grading and other end of semester work in my day job as an economics professor at Wellesley College. So I spoke Monday night on this issue. Thanks to Mary for organizing that pre-meeting. With a bigger group here, wanted to share some of those thoughts with the larger group. So I want to focus on a different concern than the set of environmental issues that we've been hearing about. And that's namely the financial issues. So since I can remember in my time in Sherborn, pretty much every year in the advisory committee report, there's a statement about the challenging financial future that we face as a town and the pressures of rising costs and how rapidly the tax base is going to increase and how we manage that without having taxes go up more than we would all like. In addition to that, and as Richard mentioned a minute ago, the town is still absorbing the cost overruns from the library and everything that went with that. So in this environment, I guess the question is, should the town put itself on the hook for $1 million for club sports? Well, I think the projections from the proponents are I think they've thought hard about them and they've done their best. Unexpected things can happen that could boost costs and make this more expensive than anticipated, or that could limit revenue and have the revenue be less than anticipated. And in terms of unexpected things happening, think library. Unexpected things can happen. And if something like that were to happen, the town would be on the hook for the $1 million. Moreover, in the numbers, the projections are would only use the field about a quarter of the time. Do we want to be in the business of being on the hook for something that Sherborn kids are only going to use part of the time? So given all of that, it seems to me to be too big a financial risk now. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to the next speaker, I just want to say again, I would like to have no more than 3 people in line for the microphone, the speaker at the mic, and 2 people behind that individual. Remember that the people who are sitting next to the aisle, they deserve your consideration. I don't want to have people constantly breathing on these folks, so thank you. Kelly?
Yes, Kelly McClintock, 65 Woodland Street. I'm chair of the Town Open Space Committee, and we have serious concerns about this Article 9. We recognize and deeply appreciate the time, effort, and thought that the Recreation Commission put into this, but we believe that the long-term protection of our groundwater should be, and has forcefully been recognized to be, the town's overriding priority. I'd just like to read 2 very, very short quotations. First, from the town's open space and recreation plan recently adopted and approved by the state. This was guided, quote, by our collective vision of a future Sherborn in which water resources will be protected and maintained for residents' needs and long-term environmental and human health. And the master plan, the new master plan for Sherborn, this was guided and has as a major goal, quote, to ensure that water protection and conservation practices in Sherborn provide the best possible protection of shared water resources based on the best available scientific evidence. Thank you, and we hope you will vote no on this article.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bruce Ekman. I've been a member of
Could
the
you step a
town,
little closer to the
a
mic?
member of the town for 27 years, actually over 30 now. I have children in the school system, children who have already graduated from the school system, grandchildren who are now in the school system. So I'm a vested member in terms of that. But we've heard from other people who are, last person on this mic was an economist. I'm a psychologist. I bring background in terms of teaching research methodology, statistics, looking at some of the things. Recently, I received something in the mail, a green flyer. Many of you have probably gotten that. I want to take a different point of view than other things. We're not just being repetitive. All right, this is a representation of being sort of fake news from my point of view. The kind of information in here is not validated, but yet does create a certain amount of emotional response. For example, next door in Wayland and as far away as Sweden, we have had no correlation with groundwater contamination. Yet in here, we hear words like toxic, multiple toxic chemicals, forever chemicals, leaching into groundwater, health risks, harming wells and wetlands. Ooh, who would want that? I mean, you have an emotional reaction to that immediately that I should go against this. But if you look at the data, what was on the screen before about all the number of studies, et cetera, they do not show a positive correlation. So we have different information than what's being claimed into those against it. So it turns out to be more of a polarization of the issue, which I'm tired of, frankly, in terms of the fake news that we've been hearing for many years now. And in some senses, it has a feeling of fear-mongering, propaganda, and I don't like that. This is a town where our well-being is by being together. We're all in this together. This is a project initiated by volunteers. It will be affecting all of us, of course, but it should have more of a sense of well-being, and we're not creating that by the polarization that's going on here. So I don't think it's good for our community's well-being, and I would recommend that we be more evidence-based. If you be evidence-based at that point, that would be a vote for number 9.
Thank you. Please, please, I really don't want to have to keep doing this. Please do not cheer, do not applaud either side. Not acceptable. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Eric Cullum. I'm a parent and a coach here in Dover, Sherborn. As you can tell by my outfit, you probably know which way I'm voting. So I just want to put a couple of things up here. So putting environmental and cost concerns aside, I believe you've covered that pretty much ad nauseum. I trust the EPA report. I trust the economics. It's pretty self-explanatory. I wanted to focus on the positive aspects of this article, which it is a good thing. Speaking for the groundswell of parents and coaches that are in this room, along with my 2 daughters, I want to point out a few things that were important for turf fields along with grass at Laurel. Number 1, fields in Sherborn and Dover, for that matter, are less than ideal a large percent of the time. Speaking as a coach, no single department or person's fault. This is due to zero irrigation, overuse, and playing on when wet due to the inability to reschedule games. Number 2, Laurel is in continual state of disrepair, season after season from overuse that causes potholes along with uneven and bare spots for our players. Comments from visiting teams on the state of our field don't help either. Thirdly, being a coach in town for many years and a co-coordinator for Dover Sherborn Soccer, I've seen the need year over year for working fields. Nothing is worse than canceling practices or games 1 hour before due to weather, not to mention the hassle of rescheduling or even worse, playing the first game of the season with no practices at all, which happened for a majority of all sports for the first 3 weeks of this season. Number 4, most importantly, my 2 daughters play field hockey, soccer, lacrosse. They love grass and they also like turf and are excited to have options. Field hockey and lacrosse are almost unplayable on grass fields at Laurel and quite dangerous due to the uneven state due to what's called ball jump up, where the ball can jump up and hit a player in the face of the chest. Last but not least, parking and traffic is a complete disaster. Ingress and egress is confusing to all who visit Laurel. This will be fixed with that. Sherborn needs accessible fields of versatile play for youth and people of all ages. This is going to promote year-round activity along with helping reduce childhood obesity and promotes well-being. Our kids need a good morale booster. Vote yes on 9.
Thank you. Over here.
Yes, hi, I'm Craig Seal. I'm at 110 Bogastow Brook Road. So I'm one of the presidents of DS Soccer, but in my day job, I'm a biochemist and geneticist. I've been doing cancer research for over 25 years. I've reviewed many grants for the NIH, the DoD, and other organizations, so I have a seasoned eye for evaluating science. I just wanted to address something from the Intercept article that was widely circulated before this meeting, because it's emblematic of many of the things that we've heard and needs to be put in context. So it says that a PFAS compound was found in turf pulled from a field in Franklin. And so I asked myself, okay, should I be worried about this? And after looking to it closely, I'm not, and I'll tell you why. And that's because the amount of PFAS in the turf was lower than the amount you'd find in any soil sample in the eastern United States. Okay? In the Franklin field, the turf there is older, and newer versions of the turf are cleaner. And along with that, Franklin used crumb rubber, and here we're talking about organic rockfill. One argument that's been put forward is that we don't want to add any PFAS to the site, even if it's ultra-trace amounts. Nothing can meet the standard. If I put loam or mulch in my yard, I'm adding PFAS. If I build a riding ring, I'm adding PFAS. If we added topsoil to Laurel in an effort to keep it natural, we'd be adding PFAS, okay? Overall, I hope that we can have some perspective here, because these types of articles and arguments can scare us off from doing anything. We need to be able to do some construction and some landscaping, whether it's on town property or our own property. And the last thing that I'll say is that there's over 700 soccer players and well over 1,000 young athletes in Sherborn and Dover who would use this turf. That's way more people than there are here today. This field would have a big positive impact on their health. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ryan Devon. I'm a 14-year resident of Sherborn. Many of you in the audience today know me as Coach Ryan, because for the last 12 years, I've been a coach. I've had the honor and privilege of coaching your children, your grandchildren. I'm the head coach of all 4 of my son's soccer teams. It's been one of the greatest memories that I've had as a Sherborn resident. But one of the biggest frustrations that I have is the inability to find adequate field coverage. It's due to a crumbling infrastructure with a Sherborn Rec Committee that's operating on a shoestring budget, and Mother Nature dumping rain and snow on our fields, making them unable to play, which is what the kids want to do. They just want to be out there to play. And it's not fair. We have to do better. I'm going to give you an example. My 8th grade soccer team has done great this year, and they qualified for the President's Cup. But as part of that tournament, we have to schedule our first game, or we forfeit if we don't play by next Saturday. And as I stand here before you, I don't have a field to play on. It's not fair. We have to do better for our kids. If you're on the fence, just remember this. The people that are in support of this are your neighbors, people on the rec committee who've been lifelong residents, who care about the environmental impacts too, and the fiscal responsibility of this. Let's collaborate and work together to do the right thing. Go DS.
Thank you.
I'm able to ask a question of the team. Is that correct?
Sure. Abe, state your name and address,
Oh,
please.
for sure. Hi, my name is Mark Cecil. I live at 2 Wood Road here in Sherborn. I love Sherborn. I think this is an amazing event we're having here today with everybody here kind of discussing these issues together. What a wonderful town to live in. I love Sherborn. I have 4 young children who are in the 1st, 4th, 5th, and 7th grade. I coach many basketball teams, and I also coach soccer. So my kids will get a lot of use out of this in the years to come. I'm very much for this project. And I just also want to point out, as others have pointed out, how thoughtful and thorough this team has been to put this project together, answering everybody's questions, always, just their incredible commitment to this and how much work has gone into this is very, very impressive and speaks so well of them. Ron, who's an expert in PFAS, that is a term that we've heard a lot. Can you just, as somebody who is an expert in this topic, just answer what is it? Everybody be?
Sure. First off, my name is Rick. I'm here as a citizen of Dover. Thank you for having me at your meeting. It reminds me of our rail trail a few years ago.
I'm sorry, but you're here as an expert.
Yes. Expert citizen. So PFAS, it's per and polyfluoroalkyl substances is the fancy name. You've probably heard about it a lot. The biggest issue with PFAS is typically firefighting foams. I'm working on Martha's Vineyard where we have 45 private wells with treatment systems because of the foams that have migrated to these people's homes. Another issue is transfer station, well, landfills, which very often are converted transfer stations. You can sometimes find PFAS there. Septic systems. If you sample any of your septic systems, you'll probably have PFAS coming out higher than the groundwater standard. Those are sources of PFAS. I am working at the Martha's Vineyard. I've recently completed a project for the Martha's Vineyard Commission as an independent evaluator of their turf field, Brockville, synthetic turf. We tested also adhesives, the shock pad underneath. It was about $12,000 of analytical testing that was done, and negligible PFAS, negligible contaminants. I agree with the decision to look away from the tire chrome. That does require certain engineering controls to control that situation. But as far as PFAS from this field, I don't see it. Not with the way manufacturers are now doing these things. They don't want to get a lawsuit. They don't want to be sued for contaminated aquifers. If they did have PFAS previously, they are adjusting and coming up with new products. And that was what we saw at the Martha's Vineyard project. So thank you again for having me here.
Thank you. Over here.
Hi, good morning. Matt Collins, 35 Ivy Lane. Kind of a comment and really pose a question. I think a lot of the comments that have been made are excellent. It's a great civic debate discussion. But I do want to express gratitude to Dave and other folks who brought this forward. I'm a family physician, and I've seen the effects of poor health due to lack of exercise opportunity and poor diet on kids and adults. And I think one of the great things about this town is we've got awesome recreation facilities, but we could have much better. And I, as a former coach for many years, a soccer coach also, as others have experienced this, delayed season starts and canceled games and canceled practices because of snow, ice, wetness, or aridity and inability to use the fields. The question is, if the evidence, which I have looked at, because as a physician, primum non nocere, first do no harm. I've read the studies from other municipalities and available from federal and state agencies, and I'm reassured that it's certainly safe. The choice of materials are safe, the materials themselves are safe, and I'm certainly concerned about any groundwater impact, and I have read the evidence and support it, that this article should pass. The plan has not yet been submitted, and my question out there is, why should we, as been suggested by Mr. Trainer and others in this town, that we form a study, that we analyze it? The studies have been done. Look at Martha's Vineyard, which was just cited, Concord, Sudbury, to prove the absence of any increase in PFAS or any groundwater impact. So why would we talk about spend money when the evidence is already there, that this is a safe alternative and it will allow healthier communities? It will, in terms of revenue, I can tell you, I've driven all over the state to find turf fields, and we will get the revenue to support this, and it'll support other activities. Thank you.
Thank you. This mic over here.
Thank you. My name is Roger Stern. I live on Peckham Mill Road. I hold a PhD in geography and environmental engineering from the first university in this country that had such a program. I would say to the supporters of the turf field, many of whom are my neighbors and friends, that I wonder what the rush is. The manufacturers of PFAS have recently been exposed in an article in The Guardian as misrepresenting the health effects of the PFAS. The town has had some difficulty in managing large engineering projects, as we know from our experience with the library, for whom the fiscal toll is yet unknown. So we are about to walk into, in my view, another such project. It may be a fine project, but as Mr. Robinson pointed out, the article has changed since it was proposed. Now I'm confused about whether the infill is organic or inorganic. And that's because it's organic now, we should worry less. Maybe that infill will dissolve faster and raise the maintenance costs. So I'm simply saying, that this might be a fine idea, but as an engineer, I'm not yet convinced. I could be convinced,
Thank you.
but I'm not.
My name is Donald Crawshaw, 198 Western Avenue in Sherborn. I played soccer as a child on gravel fields in South Africa. I coached for 12 years in the 1980s, and I was voted the Massachusetts Youth Soccer Coach of the Year. Now, looking at this proposal, it's estimated to cost $4 million. One alternative would cost much less than that. Laurel's fields are level and grassed. Grass is grown and maintained in parks, on lawns, and on golf courses all over America. Why not first spend some of the $3 million on hiring an agronomist for advice on the best way to improve the existing grass fields at Laurel? Soccer is a beautiful game that is played all over the world on any level surface. I am against spending $1 million of our taxpayer dollars on installing artificial turf when it is in keeping with nature and less costly to play soccer and lacrosse on grass.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Kirsten Mayer. I live on Bogastow Brook Road. I've been in Sherborn for 11 years, and I'm impressed with how much expertise we have in town. I want to speak as a mom, and I apologize if I'm dusty, probably some toxic stuff from the dust sitting on the floor here. There've been some great points made. I want us to focus on the fact that when I've been listening to the folks who have concerns about this particular proposal, the real nub of the argument is that they're focused on what they characterize as unknowns. The library project got out of control, so this has a risk of doing the same. That's not based on an evaluation of the way the finances are structured with Article 9. It's based on fear and unknown. There's concern that a synthetic field would leach chemicals into the groundwater. You've heard from a lot of scientists, a lot of folks who've read the studies deeply who say it's going to put less PFAS in the soil than putting a layer of topsoil down. So keeping this as a grass field and fixing it would put more chemicals into the soil than if we did the turf. So again, there's a concern about an abstract unknown that doesn't have evidence. And finally, I wanted to focus on a fact that came out in the opening presentation that I hadn't heard before and I thought was really important to focus on. The transfer station, a source of PFAS, we heard from the expert, and contamination potentially. It is unlined, meaning it's not state-of-the-art and it's not protected. All of the town waste, including styrofoam and plastic and everything else, is put in that transfer station and it's being monitored. But you know what we didn't hear? We did not hear that with all the monitoring that's going on, that there are leaches that are hurting our groundwater. It's not happening. And so we shouldn't refuse to put a turf field down that will help so many children and so many families in Sherborn and the community because we're worried about unknowns that we can't articulate a basis for. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Gavin Mish from 29 Cider Hill Lane. Can I make a motion to call for a vote?
That
People haven't
is,
spoken yet.
there are people lined up here. You may make the motion, and the motion must be seconded.
I second.
And just want to make sure I have my facts straight here. This motion is not debatable, and it requires a 2/3 majority to pass.
Oh,
So this is referred to as calling the vote. I would like to ask Ed down the back to put a slide up and not start it quite yet, but put a slide up, a voting slide, and the title of this would be calling the vote.
I have all those. Well, they can cut it off right now, cut it off, it depends on the road. Yeah, I can let you go ahead. If you want. Okay, let's see what happens.
I want to add, so that everyone understands this, that if the call for the vote is successful, there will be no further discussion, and we will move directly to voting on the article. All right, so we are voting now on calling the vote, and it must be a 2/3 majority to pass. Please vote now. Right? Could you flip, please, to the percentages? All right. The vote is 76% to 24%. So debate is closed. And we will now be calling the vote on Article 9, if I can have that slide up there. Authorize design and construction of a turf field at Laurel Farm. This is also a 2/3 vote. I ask you to please vote now. Right. If you could flip the thing there. This is a 2/3 majority to pass. 46% aye, 54% nay. Motion fails. No, please, please, please. All right. Article 10, Capital Improvement Plan. I'm sorry.
Madam Moderator,
Yes, Mr. Sy.
Article 10, Item 1A, Command Vehicle for the Fire Department. I move favorable action and that $45,000 be transferred from free cash for the purchase of a fire department command vehicle.
Second.
Okay. The article has been moved and seconded. Do the selectmen have a position on this?
Yeah, the select board voted on March 18th, 2021 unanimously in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstained.
Okay. The article has been moved and seconded. Is there any comment or questions on this item? Item Capital Improvement Plan, Article 10, Item 1A. Okay. I see no comments or questions, so I would ask you to please vote now.
Yes. I'm commander.
278 yes, 74 no. Article passes. The line item in that article passes. The rest of the line items in the capital improvement plan will be taken as a consent agenda. So I will first read the line item titles, and if anyone wishes to remove one of those line items from consideration as a consent agenda, please call a hold. as we have done with the others, and we'll consider that afterwards. So the articles, or the line items, sorry, in Article 10 are item 2, 2 cruisers for the police department, 1 marked and 1 unmarked.
You have to read 1B also.
I'm sorry, yes. Item 1B, hose replacement for the fire department, $37,096. I'll repeat item 2. 2 cruisers for the police department, 1 marked and 1 unmarked, $99,000. Item 3, repair and/or renovation of town buildings and facilities, $369,000. Item 4A, equipment for the Department of Public Works, $82,704. Item 4B, 1-ton truck for the Department of Public Works, $109,719. Item 4C, roadway management for the Department of Public Works, $457,451. Item 5, construction of a Pine Hill School access road and Pine Hill School campus improvements, $1,611,735. Item 6, did someone call a hold?
Yeah.
Okay. That's on the Pine Hill Road. All right. Item 6, replacement of the separate water systems with a joint water management system, public water supply at Woodhaven and Leland Farms, $198,000. Item 7, architectural study, senior center for the senior center, $40,000. All right, so just to be clear that I've caught everything, I have 2 holds here, one on item 5 and one on item 7. All right,
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Sy.
I move favorable action and that the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, be authorized to borrow for the following items and sums. Item 1B, hose replacement for the fire department, $37,096. Item 2, 2 cruisers for the police department, 1 marked and 1 unmarked, $99,000. Item 3, repair and/or renovation of town buildings and facilities, $369,000. Item 4A, equipment for the Department of Public Works, $82,704. Item 4B, 1-ton truck for the Department of Public Works, $109,719. Item 4C, roadway management for the Department of Public Works, $457,451. Item 6, replacement of the separate water systems with a joint water management system, public water supply, at Woodhaven and Leland Farms for the Select Board and the Department of Public Works, $198,000. All for the purposes as set forth in the Advisory Committee Report Table pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7(1), or any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the town therefore, and in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 20, authorize any premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bonds or notes, to be applied to the payment of costs approved hereunder, thereby reducing by a like amount the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs, provided, however, that this vote shall be expressly contingent upon approval by the voters at an election of a Proposition 2.5 so-called debt exclusion question pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 21CK. With respect to item 6, Woodhaven and Leland Farms public water supply for the Select Board and the Department of Public Works for $198,000 shall be contingent on successful negotiation of the division of financial responsibility for the debt service between the Woodhaven and Leland Farms governing boards.
Second.
All right. As this is a consent agenda, and there is no debate, And this would be on lines 1B through 7, but not on line 5 nor line 7. So the vote is going to be on lines 1B, 2, 3, 4A, 4B, 4C, and 6. Okay. Is everyone clear in understanding that? All right. All right. I ask you to please vote now. All right, yes votes 318, no votes 62. Those line items pass. All right, we have 2 held items. Item 5, construction of Pine Hill School Access Road and architectural study. We will address first the construction of Pine Hill School Access Road. And Mr. Sy, you have a motion for that?
Madam Moderator, Article 10, Item 5, Pine Hill Access Road and Campus Improvements for the Select Board and the Department of Public Works. I move favorable action and that the Treasurer, with the approval of the Select Board, be authorized to borrow for the purposes of construction of the Pine Hill Access Road and Pine Hill Elementary School Campus Improvements, Item 5, as set forth in the Advisory Committee report table, including all incidental and related expenses, the sum of $1,611,735 pursuant to MGL Chapter 44, Section 7.1, or any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the town therefore, and in accordance with MGL Chapter 44, Section 20, authorize any premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bonds or notes to be applied to the payment of costs approved hereunder, thereby reducing by a like amount the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs, provided, however, that this vote shall be expressly contingent upon approval by the voters at an election of a Proposition 2.5 so-called debt exclusion question pursuant to MGL Chapter 59, Section 21 CK.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there discussion?
Hello, I'm Angie Johnson, and I live at 44 Page Farm Road in Sherborn, and I'm here in support of this motion. I am on the school committee, actually, and this has come up for the past 10 years. The problem we have is with the traffic. If you have been at Pine Hill, if you have tried to go down that street, the fact that it is not a one-way street is impending. It's not only impending traffic, but it's also very dangerous for our children. I have been in the carpool line and I have seen being on one side, sitting, waiting to pull up to get my child, a bus coming in the middle, a teacher walking down, trying to take the numbers and the names of the cars, and another car coming down on the other side. So you have 3 cars. I've seen 2 children dart out and almost be hit. So my plea is that we go for the safety of our students and our teachers and our community. So I implore you to vote for this in order to make our school safe, not only for learning, but for entering and leaving.
Thank you.
My name is Nick Rodenhouse, 16 Morse Road. I just have questions. It says the final amount will be presented at the meeting. Is the amount given the final amount? Will there be a traffic light on Route 16? All right. And it says bonds and notes will be issued. How long will it take to pay off those bonds, and what would their amounts be? So I agree safety of the students is important. I must add, though, I walk that current new access gravel road every day, and it looks to me like traffic going east, going downhill on an icy road. If there's no traffic light, they're going to be moving fast and it's going to be dangerous.
I cannot answer those questions personally, but if DPW Director Colleen is here, he may be able to answer those questions. And at the same time, Sean, did you want to run your presentation or just? It's up to you. Okay.
The low bid that came in was 1.363. So with a 10% contingency, we should use 1.5. I'm not sure what the number was. The number that was on the slide was wrong. I think it was 109,000. I don't know how that got on that slide.
This would be borrowing up to, so that everyone
1.5.
understands.
And I'm not sure, the treasurer would have to answer the bond question, or perhaps the attorney. I think it'd be 20 years.
I don't know. The treasurer is not here this morning.
What's that?
I said the treasurer is not here this morning, so.
Right. So I would assume it as a road project like this would be a 20-year. Yeah, the motion is for the full amount to be
Yes.
borrowed or bonded.
Yes, it is. Up to. Okay. I forgot where I was.
Hi.
Oh, sorry. Yes, there was a question. Sean, the gentleman previously had a question on the traffic light as well.
No, there won't be a traffic light. We're going to keep this town as one light town. There will be a lighted school zone though. So the school zone will still remain at the lights, and then another one down Elliott Street.
Hi, Joe Shanahan, Chair of Capital Budget Committee. Just one point of clarification to answer the question. So the town engaged a study with Green International Affiliates and received a detailed estimate. So the number is from that detailed estimate. What Sean is talking about is some of the bids coming in are coming in under that estimated amount. So it's to borrow up to that amount, but not to exceed that amount. Hopefully that clarifies.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, George Honeywell, 104 Woodland. I'm the one who put a hold in this, mostly because of process. 1.6 million into a group. So I thought we should pull it out, talk about it separately. Probably 10 or 15 years ago, we spent a good 45 minutes on this topic and it got voted down. And the same safety issues, absolutely. These are very important. If anything, cars are bigger now. But this is a lot of money. It's 4 or 5% of our budget. And our taxes go up all the time because we keep overriding 2.5. And I would like to see, a more packaged, decision for everybody. So we're not asking questions at the last minute. We don't even have the treasurer here. And I think from a process standpoint, this deserves kind of proper analysis.
Thank you. Rick?
Madam Moderator, Rick Novak, 36 Dason Hill Road. Thank you for all you're doing this morning. I regret to report the slide is wrong. If you put the slide back up, the top line on the slide says the amount being voted is $109,719. That's the amount for the DPW truck. I think we probably just need to fix it for the voting. That's all.
I see. Yes. Okay. 1,611,735, and that is in up to.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you, Rick. I did not even notice that. Very sharp.
Jonathan Dowse, 100 North Main Street, Deputy Fire Chief. I also brought this plan forth to the town almost over 15 years ago. I've been working on it ever since. In 2013, we actually had a project with a bid price of $450,000 or less than $500,000. Unfortunately, it failed town meeting, or it passed town meeting, but did not have the 2/3 majority that it needed. I think if you put this off, that number just keeps on growing. This was a whole safety plan put together to address traffic at the lights, safety at the school, and by exiting on further down Elliott Street, you no longer have the backup and people waiting to get out through the lights and traffic backing up both directions. It has been turned into a school zone, which is a 20-mile-an-hour zone. The steepness of the hill, there's plenty steeper hills in town that you have to worry about than that one. I just encourage the town move forward with this because all it's going to do is the safety issues are going to be there and the cost is just going to keep on growing and eventually be $2-3 million. So, and if in the future you plan to do an addition at the school, this is something you would want to consider. So it's investing in the future of the town. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Susie, please.
Good morning, all. Susan Tyler, 26 Weston Avenue. I've been a member of the Traffic Safety Committee here in town since 2004. We have done a lot of work and a lot of study on this whole situation. And traffic safety has always voted favorably in getting this done, the extension of the Pine Hill. The intersection at the light is dangerous as it is, and the one-way traffic going in and out, for those who have never seen it, there was the previous study done, traffic safety, we did videos. And they actually had a student coming out with one of those signs, stop and go for the traffic going up and down the hill for the buses. That is not safe. The time has come to protect the students, to protect everyone in this town. And for those that don't know it, Pine Hill School is our designated emergency shelter. Okay, let's all run up there right now. That's scary. Get this done now. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. Please.
Christina Colleen, 1 Butler Street. I'd just like to let everyone know that there have been multiple accidents where buses have hit cars. They've hit the side of cars. They've hit the mirrors. I have 3 children that have gone to that school. I have last one there. And I won't be able to get to see this project come to fruition, but it is extremely dangerous. I don't know that a lot of you go up there. There are it's a traffic nightmare. And it is very, very hard for me to see these kids that are darting here and there and everywhere. We really, really need to take this into consideration. We can't hold this off anymore. It is super, super important. I do not want to see any of our children get accidentally hit, a teacher, a bad major car accident. I encourage everyone to please, please think of the children. I promise you that the traffic on 16 is going to be 10,000 times better than what we're dealing with right now. Please, please, please consider this and please vote. Thank you.
Is there any other questions or comments? Okay, I am closing debate. And could someone fix that? Is it possible to fix the amount on that slide right now so that people really do see what they're voting on? The number should be 1,611,735. You can cut and paste from the text up to the top.
That's fine.
Are we good? Okay, thank you. This, I would remind you that since this is a borrowing article, it must pass by 2/3. Please vote now.
Countdown's not happening.
Countdown is not moving, or at least it's not displaying.
How about a manual countdown?
Pardon me?
How about a manual countdown?
Well, we need to record the vote here also, so.
I know.
I just got work and just cracking a beer.
Yeah, I try to be so quiet, but it's like, it doesn't make sense. No matter what I do.
I'm good. Eric has a bag of snacks here too.
Yeah. What's that?
Oh, they said he had power bars.
No. That's funny, I know. Now you should say.
Larry, can you call a voice vote?
Yeah. No. I can call a card vote, but that's going to take forever. Okay, we will start. You're saying go ahead? Yeah, okay. We can start again and you should re-vote. All right? So please vote now.
We'll talk.
Okay. This must pass by 2/3. Could you please? Okay, it passes by 76%. Article passes. Moving on to Article 10, Item 7. Mr. Sy.
Madam Moderator, Article 10, Item 7, Architectural Study, Senior Center for the Council on Aging. I move favorable action and that the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, be authorized to borrow for the purposes of an architectural/feasibility study for a senior center, Item 7, as set forth in the advisory committee report table, including all incidental and related expenses, the sum of $40,000 pursuant to MGL Chapter 44, Section 7(1), or any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the town therefore, and in accordance with MGL Chapter 44, Section 20, authorize any premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of costs of issuance of such bonds or notes to be applied to the payment of costs approved hereunder, thereby reducing by a like amount the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs, provided, however, that this vote shall be expressly contingent upon approval by the voters at an election of a Proposition 2.5 so-called debt exclusion question pursuant to MGL Chapter 59, Section 21 CK.
Second.
And does the select board have a comment on this?
Yes, March 4th, 2021, the select board unanimously voted 4 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstain.
Opening the floor now for discussion. April?
April Contini, 62 Mill Street, 41-year resident. Being a senior citizen, I greatly appreciate the good intentions of the creators of this article. However, I am unaware of a study done to assess our needs and options. I consider this yes vote support of a decision already made to create a dedicated facility without the usual research and study we are accustomed to. I believe the positive vote is premature. Thank you.
Adam Page, 3 Peckham Hill Road. Can someone explain what the 40,000 is for? It sounds like a lot of money just to study whether we should do something that sounds like a good idea.
Yes, Chris Winterfeld is here from the COA.
Yeah, hi, my name is Chris Winterfelt. I live at 4 Old Orchard Road. I am the current COA chair. There was a misnomer. This is actually a feasibility study, not a architectural study. So that might answer April Contini's question. We're doing a full feasibility study. If this passes, we plan to hire an engineering firm, and that would be where the 40,000 goes. And I have a consultant here. We have the consultant here now, Tom Scarlatti. If you would like to come up, Tom. Tom can give you all the information on what exactly the feasibility study covers.
Thank you. My name is Tom Scarlata. I'm a principal with Bargman Henry Plus Archetype. We're an architectural firm that has done extensive amount of senior centers across the state. What a feasibility study is starting with looking at the demographics of the town we're working within, understanding the needs, what the desires are, what programs would want to be offered. If there's sites available to look at, we will look at the various sites. What's the feasibility of those sites for a senior center, if there's an existing building. And then also part of it is looking at what a program would be, what type of spaces would be needed in this building, what the size of the building would be, and all the various needs, doing architectural studies at a very conceptual level, and then identifying costs associated with that, including construction, design, and then the full project cost to actually execute the project. But again, it's a feasibility study. It's not an actual architectural design.
Thank you. Richard?
Sorry, habit. Richard Robinson, 117 Mill Street, recently became a senior. How about that? I take April's point, and I think it's the way that this article suggests that creating a dedicated space is a fait accompli, rather than having already done a study to determine whether a dedicated space in a separate building is in fact in the best interest of seniors in this. Every feasibility study that I've been a part of has in fact been a prelude to an architectural plan and a construction. That's different than a functional study, which would ask the question, what do we need?
Thank you. Betsy?
Elizabeth Johnson, 272 Western Avenue. I appreciate the work that the committees have done, but I think this is premature. One of the selling points of the library was to have a large room in which various committees and groups could meet. And I think we might give it a chance once we get the library on board. Thank you.
If I could answer that.
Yes.
There is only one community room at the library, and that's going to be shared with almost any committee in Sherborn. And what we're looking for is a bit larger space than that, hopefully, if the feasibility study finds that is possible. Because we do have so many activities, we would really love to have a commercial kitchen, because we serve meals. Room for all of our lifetime learning classes, room for our men's group that meets weekly. We have book groups. We need private spaces for the consultant that comes in when people want to speak about their Medicare options. We have exercise classes that are 3 times a week so far. We have adults children of seniors come in and need to be counseled. We have reference library materials that are dedicated to seniors, and many other kind of private conferencing. So we can't just rely on one room when other people aren't using it. We need a dedicated space. We need storage space, room for lectures, room for our coffee and conversation afternoons. We need to really take care of our seniors, who are now a quarter of the population of our Sherborn. So we're growing. In 10 years from now, it's predicted to be 35%. And the COA has been looking at space for a good 10 years, And we were told by the selectmen at one point when we thought we found a great house, that we were putting a horse. So this is our way of slowing down and doing a proper professional study.
And 74 Harrington Ridge Road. I agree with the previous speaker, once the library is online, there's a huge room there, and the community center becomes open and available. Is there a particular reason that we have that wonderful space and a fabulous community center that the seniors can't utilize that space like the rest of the community?
Hi, Tricia Caldecott, Vice Chair, COA. Part of the feasibility study will be to assess if a space like that would be suitable for a senior center. So this is literally just a first incremental step in assessing needs, at the very beginning of a process that may begin and end there. There's very little risk here, and we would all gain a great deal of a study here to see what the needs are, what locations might be suitable. This is just the very, very beginning, or it could be the beginning and the end of the entire process. But we need professionals to come in and assess the needs and assess the sites and what it would want. Hope that helps.
Thank you. Daryl?
Daryl Beardsley, 54 Forest Street. So I think the study sounds like a great idea. I would like to say that as my daughter was growing up in Sherborn, I like to have the opportunity to bring her to intergenerational events.
Wonderful.
And so I guess I would not mind seeing if more space is needed for town events. Can we do it in a way that doesn't isolate different groups, but maybe shared across all the different resources that we have?
And that's been discussed many times and will be part of this process.
Thank you. Thanks, Daryl.
Hi, Audrey Raycroft, 18 Everett Street. I think I also am the president of the Friends of the Sherborn Council on Aging. I think what a lot of people in the room do not understand is that all of the events that Chris described that happen for seniors don't happen in one room. Right now, it's a patchwork of places throughout town. Lifetime Learning at Town Hall, Senior Cafe, drop-in lunches at Pilgrim Church. Can't meet with seniors at the COA office. So it's not just one room that is going to be able to meet all these needs at a town facility that also shares that room with other groups. So I would encourage people to consider this. You know, it's been raised, $40,000 is an issue. We just got done discussing $4 million items, $1.6 million items. And you're talking about a large percentage of your population that can benefit from this. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff?
Yes, Jeff Waldron, Surrey Lane, speaking as a private citizen. I've worked with Christina and her team, and I really support this article. We've talked about it for probably 5 months now. It's really more, the word architectural was not really intended. It was in the original draft, but it is to do a more broad assessment of not just it's the senior center, but it's also the community center, and we're incorporating that in a separate scope of work that the town's doing to figure out how to reopen town hall and look at all the way the departments are configured. Because as people know, the COA has very small offices in the basement of town hall. So I very much support this article, and I think it's a comprehensive assessment. It's not a building design project or anything of that nature. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Michelle Murphy, Russet Hill Road. I'd like to call the vote.
Sure. That needs a, again, this is, there is no debate on this, but the move to call the vote must pass by 2/3. Do I have a second before that? Okay. All right, so if we can put up a slide that will simply do a count for us. Ed? Okay. This is a vote on calling the question. It must pass by 2/3. Please vote now. Okay. Even I can see that that passes at 2/3. So the question has been called. And Ed, if you can put up the actual, the slide for the actual article, that would be great. This is Article 10, line 7. This is a borrowing, so it must pass by 2/3. Okay. Please vote now. All right, could you, Ed, flip that so that, all right, the motion fails. All right. Moving on, Articles 11 through 13. This will be also a consent agenda. It will be for 3 articles, and we will treat this as we have treated all other consent agendas, where I'm going to read the titles now. And if anybody wants to hold any of them, please call out hold. Article 11, use of free cash. Article 12, allow the assessor to collect tax data until 6:30. Article 13, amend general bylaws, Chapter 5, registration and license requirements for dogs. Okay, there are no holds, therefore Articles 11 through 13 will be treated as a consent agenda and there will be no debate.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Sy.
I move that Articles 11 through 13 be considered together as consent agenda articles, where such articles are likely to be approved without significant debate, and with such articles moved for favorable actions as written in the warrant and with the following additional information. Article 11, no action, as there are no proposed uses of free cash not otherwise specified in the warrant.
Second.
All right. The article has been moved and seconded. As there is no debate, please vote now. This is a majority vote. Article passes, consent agenda passes. That's Articles 11, 12, and 13. Article 14. We get the slide. Amendment to frontage requirements for open space subdivisions. Mr. Sy.
Madam Moderator, I move favorable action and that the town vote to amend section 4.5.6 of the zoning bylaws, open space subdivision, dimensional requirements, subsection E, frontage, as printed in the warrant, to delete the requirement that such frontage meet the frontage requirements for the applicable zoning district, and to add provisions that help preserve the scenic character of the existing road, all as further described in the warrant, along with additional language as printed in the advisory report and to be presented during town meeting.
Second.
Right. We have a presentation being made for Article 14. Marion?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm Marion Neutra, 25 Prospect Street, and Chair of the Planning Board. The Planning Board is proposing a modification of one section in the open space subdivision bylaw that was adopted at town meeting last August. You'll recall that according to state law, any parcel of land that's big enough to subdivide into 2 or more lots can be developed as a subdivision. And the bylaw established Sherborn's preference for open space design that requires 60% of the land to be protected as open space. A conventional subdivision is still possible by special permit if it can be shown to be environmentally better. The intent is to allow the town to choose the better option in each case. Now, at the time, there was concern that with house lots confined to 40% of the parcel, open space subdivision houses could be more visible from the road, and this might impact the scenic character of the town. Could I have the next slide, please? So in the original bylaw, we included a provision that house lots on the existing road must have the full frontage required in the zoning district in which they lie. And this made sense for large properties, but as we tested the bylaw on smaller parcels, we found an unintended consequence. And let's go to the next slide. This property illustrates the problem. It's a hypothetical property, but it's typical of many in Sherborn that could be small subdivisions in the future. It's a 7-acre lot with one existing house and frontage for one house lot, and there's undisturbed forest and wetlands, perhaps a trail nearby. In this 2-acre zoning district, next slide please, this could, by state law, be a conventional subdivision with 3 house lots. And by state law, a conventional design requires only enough frontage to build a new road. The house lot frontage is created on the new subdivision road, so there may be some frontage on the existing road, but it's irrelevant. An open space design would make more sense here, but because of the large frontage requirement on the existing road, it's impossible. And that runs counter to the intent of the bylaw, which was that any property that could be a subdivision under state law can potentially be designed with an open space design. The next slide shows that a revision in this warrant article, by eliminating the frontage requirement on the existing road, we can evaluate designs on a level playing field. And in this case, an open space subdivision would preserve the forest and trail connections that could be shared by all the residents. But we still must protect the view from the scenic road. Now, there are already controls in the bylaw. First, you can have no more houses in an open space design that would be in a conventional subdivision. And there's an increased setback from the existing road of 100 feet instead of 60. And warrant Article 14 in the town warrant adds more protections. For example, subdivision house driveways can only be off of the internal road, not the existing road. And we required a vegetated buffer within the setback, 50 feet deep, all across the front of the property. Now, in reviewing this article, advisory members pointed out that the vegetated buffer requirement was too rigid. For example, what if the area along the road is a beautiful meadow or a pond? So we're proposing new language in the warrant article to require screening only of the houses, not the entire property, and placed wherever it's most appropriate. And this last slide, if you could change, thanks, summarizes the revisions that are proposed in Article 14. First, eliminating the frontage requirement on the existing road. The driveways have to be to the internal road only, and it requires visual screening from the existing road. Now, on the last point, the new language that we're proposing today provides more flexibility in protecting the scenic view from the road. And This was unanimously approved by the select board, and I believe has the support of advisory as well. It's important to point out that there's nothing in this bylaw or the revision that enables more subdivision development in Sherborn. It won't change the number of developments that can be built. It doesn't change the number of houses that can be built in the town. But a yes vote on Article 14 only puts open space and conventional.
Marion, the planning board has voted on this,
Yes,
and could you give the report, please?
yes, the planning board voted unanimously 5-0 to support the article with the new language.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this article? Okay. Seeing none, this is a 2/3 vote, as it is a zoning article. So I would ask you to please vote now. Okay, again, I can figure this one out. 90% to 10%, motion passes. Article 15, acquisition disposition of land at 31 Hunting Lane.
Madam Moderator,
I'm sorry, Ms. Matarazzo.
I move favorable action that the Select Board be authorized to acquire by purchase the land located at 31 Hunting Lane, more particularly described as 22.93 of the 24.93 acres of land shown on the Town of Sherborn Assessors as Parcel 11-3C on Assessors Map 6 and Parcel 3B on Assessors Map 11, which parcels are also identified as Assessors Parcel 1D 1103C and Assessors Parcel 1D 1103B, which parcels were assessed, valued, and taxed pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 61B in fiscal year 2020 and earlier, for general municipal purposes, contingent upon receipt of $950,000 in private funds for such acquisition. And if such parcels are acquired by the town, that the Select Board be authorized to dispose of said property or any interest therein by lease or sale or otherwise, in accordance with applicable law on such terms and conditions as may be established by the Select Board.
Second.
The article has been moved and seconded. We have a presentation on this article. John?
Well, good afternoon. I'm John Halamka, 11 Unity Lane, a 10-year resident of Sherborn, and it is an honor to be the proponent for this article. Now, there are some slides. I see the clicker has been moved, but I'm sure you can control it from back there. So what is Unity Farm Sanctuary? Unity Farm Sanctuary is a public charity, a 501c3 established in 2016. It is an educational and conservation organization. You may be familiar with GuideStar, which is the Consumer Reports of public charities. It is ranked a platinum on GuideStar. It is, for the last 5 years, of course, required by, since its founding, the IRS and the Attorney General to publicly post all of its financials, and every dollar through an audited financial statement is available to the public on the website, GuideStar, IRS, and the Attorney General. It's all available to you. It's currently home to 300 abused, neglected, and abandoned animals, and a place of community service for 400 local volunteers. Especially during this time of pandemic, our 3 miles of open public trails have been used extensively 24 hours a day. So let's just take a look at the map. Through the connectivity of our trails, you'll see that we have the connections between already Zion's Lane, Unity Lane, Green Lane, and all of the trails are available at any time to our general public community, and there's a parking lot as well. What is Article 15? As you've heard, next slide, Article 15 is an exercise of right of first refusal of 61B for $950,000. Unity Farm Sanctuary, as a 501c3, has signed a memorandum of understanding with the town agreeing to purchase that property to provide the funding for not only its acquisition, but its maintenance in perpetuity, as well as setting it aside for the benefit of the public in perpetuity. Now, you may wonder, well, John is almost 60 and Kathy is almost 60. What if we pass on? This will be owned by the charity with a 7-member independent trustee board overseeing it in perpetuity. And the way this is set up is the attorneys Hemingway and Barnes ensure that this trustee board will keep those lands protected, not only the 61B lands, but all adjacent lands. When completed, a proposed new trail system, obviously developed with Conservation Committee and all oversight of the town, will connect downtown all these local residential areas and connect us to the Bay Circuit Trail, providing a potential 200-mile forest corridor. You could walk from C&L Frosty to Newburyport or Duxbury, should you choose. So what I hope you see is this is for the purpose of preservation for the town's open space and recreation. We've heard about the importance of recreation, and it will be done through the context and ownership of a charity for the benefit of us all. And we look forward for the opportunity to provide the funding that will secure this in perpetuity. Thank you.
Right. Is there discussion?
Yep, Mayor Moderator.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, the selectman.
As a report on April 1st, 2021, the select board unanimously voted 4 in favor, 0 opposed, and 0 abstained. And I also want to clarify and report that the select board has executed a memorandum of understanding with Unity Farm for the to fund the purchase of the property.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, this is because it involves disposition of land. This is a 2/3 vote, right? If we can get the voting slide up there now. Right. Please vote now. Please. The vote is 321 to 9. Motion passes. Article 16, Upper Charles Rail Trail access, acceptance of easements. Mr. Sy.
Madam Moderator, I move favorable action and that the town vote to accept easements to allow the construction of a small parking area off Whitney Street and a trail to provide access to the Sherborn segment of the Upper Charles Trail as more particularly described in the warrant.
Second.
Okay. The article has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this article? All right. Oh, Gino, sorry. Presentation by Gino.
I don't have a presentation, just a statement.
Okay.
Gino Colucci, Town Planner. When the Whitney Farms development was approved, there was a requirement for an easement that provided a couple of parking spaces off Whitney Street and a trail connection to the Upper Charles Trail. Over the years, we discovered that it would be a better connection to extend the trail, extend the easement, which runs along the edge of the property, not through it or anything, to the gas line crossing of the Upper Charles Trail. The developer has been very amenable to the change, and this is just simply to accept that easement from the developer. That's it.
Thank you, Gina. So is there any comment? Okay, seeing none, then we will move to the vote. Article 16, this is a majority vote. Please vote now. Vote is 260 to 5. The article passes. Article 17.
Madam Moderator?
I just want to read the title of the article first. Amend General Bylaws, Chapter 10, Public Ways with respect to truck brake usage.
Madam Moderator?
Ms. Matarazzo.
I move that no action be taken.
Second.
Okay. We have a presentation on this article. Steve?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephen Constantine. I live at 32 North Main Street. Next slide, please. So the problem that I'm bringing up is that of Jake brake usage, large trucks in Sherborn. So folks know we've seen a lot more trucks coming through town. We've also seen a greater increase as people come out of COVID. Next slide, please. So many large trucks supplement their standard braking systems using an engine brake, also called a Jacobs brake, Jake brake, compression brake. Next slide, please. So what are Jake brakes? Jake brakes are used to reduce the wear on a truck's regular braking system. They are strictly an optional accessory turned on or off by one switch on the truck's dashboard. Next slide, please. Why are Jake brakes a problem? Jake brakes produce a loud, abrupt, high decibel sound, noise pollution that invades our homes and yards, public ways. They can startle pedestrians, cyclists, horseback riders, and other drivers. They are also dangerous in wet, icy conditions. They can lead to a jackknife situation, and if they're not maintained properly, they can discharge unspent diesel fuel, and there are potential environmental repercussions. Next slide, please. So in Sherborn, we've got several problem areas where these have come up. Mostly traffic lights, stop signs, hilly areas, specifically the downtown traffic light, North Main Street and Elliott, near the Pine Hill School and the Heritage, Western Ave, the Odessa trucks, intersection of Coolidge and North Main, split Washington and South Main, Everett Street, Coolidge and Main Street. Many of these problem areas have been discussed at length on Sherborn next door. Next slide, please. So what can we do? We can support Warrant Article 17. I'm not going to read it right now, but people can read it. They can see it's to prohibit the use of Jake brakes in town. There is a fine that was proposed. Initially, we had a $300 fine, but speaking with Police Chief Bento, he suggested that we do 100 for the first, 200 for the second, 300 for the third. Next slide, please. Precedents set by other towns. So here's a list of some of the towns that do have bylaws prohibiting engine braking. Hingham, Ayr, Boxford, Norwell, Holyoke. Medfield's interesting. They're our neighbor to the south. They don't have a bylaw, but they do have signage where they prohibit the use of engine brakes in certain areas. Medfield's Deputy Police Chief, Lars Anderson, stated that signage is effective, but the correct way to implement this is to back up the signage with the town bylaw. This was echoed by our own Sherborn Select Board member, Paul Durensis, on the March 4th Select Board meeting to review warrant articles. Next slide, please. Downside, tough to enforce, but having signage in place will notify truckers of the bylaw and minimize infractions, keeping sound levels down and the town safer. So I'm asking folks to support Article 17 to make Sherborn a safer, more quiet, peaceful, and desirable town to live in. The other thing I just want to make sure people are aware, because we got to be really careful with this. The advisory board was split on this, and they voted no action. So if folks want to see this bylaw put in place, we first need to say no to what the advisory's motion, and then if that passes, then I can present a motion for this bylaw, and we'd say yes to that. I'm sure Madam Moderator is going to walk us through all that, but that's what I have.
Okay. So is there any discussion on this?
Madam Moderator?
Oh, yes, sorry. Eric.
I'm used to it.
I'm sorry, Eric. Really, I am.
Not my doing at home. Okay. The select board voted to take favorable action on this article. 3 in favor, 1 opposed, and 0 abstain. Okay.
Robert?
I have an amendment.
Is your amendment to the no action? Okay, then that would not be the time that would come up later. Carol?
Carol Marple, Village Way. I'm curious if the Traffic Safety Committee has weighed in on this.
Is there someone here from Traffic Safety? Susie?
Hi, Susan Tyler, a member of the Traffic Safety Committee. Yes, we've weighed in on this. We've talked about this numerous times in the past. We do not support a bylaw. Signage is a wonderful thing. And as the majority advisory report says, there already is a Mass General law that can deal with this. So signage is one thing, but we did not support the bylaw.
Okay. Robert, do you have a comment other than to amend the no action?
No comment, just an amendment.
Okay. Carol?
Hi, I'm Carol McGarry. I live at 262 Western Avenue. I've lived there for over 20 years. And definitely we're seeing an uptick in these heavier construction trucks coming through, not just the Odessa trucks. And they use the Jake brakes, and it's much louder than any other kinds of trucks. We also were in communication earlier this year with Holliston because they were complaining about the same issues near the Sherborn line, and I think some of those trucks are feeding into our roads as well. So it's a regional issue. And, so far, what we've been doing really hasn't worked. The signage we have now, the bylaws we have now are not a deterrent. I think we need to take action and support the original article. Thank you.
Thank you. Daryl?
Daryl Beardsley, 54 Forest, and I have a really completely different kind of comment, and that is on the safety of Jake brakes. And I spoke with a client of mine who's a major trucking company with tractor trailer trucks all over the country, and I described conditions here, and they didn't feel that use of Jake brakes is necessary for safety for the kind of terrain that we have and layout of roads. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Okay, so just so that everyone is clear, you are voting on a negative motion. The motion on the floor is to take no action. If that motion passes, if you vote yes and a majority votes yes, then the article is defeated. If that motion fails, if a majority of people vote no, then the motion fails and there is the opportunity for someone to offer an alternative motion. Just to be clear, if the no action motion fails, it does not constitute a positive vote on the article. We are voting only now on the no action motion. Does everyone understand what they're doing here? Okay.
No.
The motion on the floor is to take no action. That would defeat the citizens petition to have a bylaw preventing or forbidding jake brakes to be used in the town. That the advisory committee has made a no action motion there. If you think that that is correct, that there should be no addition to the bylaw preventing jake brake usage in the town, then you would vote yes. If you would like to see prohibition of jake brake usage in the town, then you would vote no to defeat the current motion on the floor of no action. Just to be clear once more, if the motion is defeated, it does not imply that the opposite is the case. It just means that motion is defeated. And at that point, someone has the opportunity to offer a positive motion or another motion. All right. This is a majority vote. Please vote now. Okay, so the motion of no action is defeated, 156 to 56.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Constantine.
I move that the town vote to amend General Bylaw, Chapter 10, Public Ways, by adding a new Section 5 engine brake prohibition as follows. Section 5, the use of engine brake, compression brake, jake brake, jack brake, so-called, shall be prohibited in all streets in the town of Sherborn. Engine, jake braking, is allowed in emergency situations and to avoid injury or an accident, and the truck driver may use that claim as an affirmative defense if ticketed for violating the town bylaw. And to amend General Bylaw, Chapter 16, by adding Chapter 10, Public Ways, Section 5, so that it reads as follows. Chapter 10, Section 5, engine compression, jake, jack brake use, penalty, $100 for the first violation, $200 for the second violation, $300 for the third and subsequent violations. Enforcing persons, police officers.
Is there a second for that motion? All right. The motion has been moved and seconded. Is there discussion on this motion? All right, seeing none. If we can get the voting slide up there. Okay, I would ask you to please vote now. Motion passes 167 to 34. Article 18, citizen petition for adding new general bylaw, Chapter 31 for products.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Sy.
the advisory committee makes no recommendation on this article.
Does the select board have anything to say?
Yeah, I was actually afraid you were going to ask me this one. So the select board did not successfully come to a vote on this. Under a motion of no action, it failed 2-2. Under a motion to support, it failed 2-2. On a motion to actually take no action, failed 1-3-0. The select board looks forward to a fifth member.
Okay, so this is a citizen's petition, and the citizen will make a motion on this since advisory has declined to do so. If you could just also introduce yourself, Jeanette.
Yes, Jeanette Flickenmeyer, 121 Bogastow Road.
And read your motion, please.
I move that the town vote to add a new general bylaw, Chapter 31, for products that, notwithstanding any other provisions of the bylaws, prohibits the sale, offer of sale, display for sale, trade, or otherwise distribute for monetary or non-monetary consideration a fur product in the town of Sherborn, as set forth and described in the warrant and in the advisory committee report.
Is there a second for this motion? All right. Article has been moved and seconded, and the article sponsor has a presentation.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to present today. What you'll hear from me in the next 5 minutes is first about the proposed bylaw, second about the animals that are affected by the fur industry, third about the environmental impacts of the fur industry, fourth about the danger to public health from the fur industry, and fifth, the alternatives to fur. Slide, please. Next slide. The proposed fur accessories and home accessories and decor that are made in whole or part of fur. Next slide, please. It provides reasonable exemptions for leather, cowhide, shearling, fur used in tribal or cultural purposes, and used fur. The proposed bylaw does not prohibit the possession of fur products nor the purchase of fur products outside of the town of Sherborn. Next slide, please. Voted in favor of animal welfare legislation. In 1996, 68% voted to ban leg hold traps. In 2008, 68% voted to ban greyhound racing. And in 2016, 78% voted to end the cruel confinement of farm animals. So you may wonder why Sherborn needs this bylaw when there are no local businesses selling fur. This bylaw represents the core values of the citizens of Sherborn, and it tells would-be retailers that selling fur does not reflect the values of town residents and is not welcome here. And I'll also point out that the photo at the bottom of the coyote trimmed coat I got off of Saks Fifth Avenue website last month, and they, a week after that, have announced that they will be the next major retailer to no longer sell fur. Next slide, please. The fur industry exploits several species of fur-bearing animals. The latest figures estimate 100 million animals are killed annually just for their fur. And that does not even count rabbits, which for several hundred million are killed each year. These fur-farmed animals live in tiny, filthy cages where they literally lose their minds from confinement before they are killed by the harshest of means: anal electrocution, suffocating, clubbing, often being incapacitated but still alive and conscious when they are skinned. Next slide. This has been repeatedly documented on fur farms in China, which is the source of 80% of the fur sold in the United States. And there are videos of these investigations on furfreema.com. I suggest you look. Next slide, please. Trapping contributes only a small percentage of fur, but still over 5 million animals are caught in traps annually. These archaic and indiscriminate traps often maim or kill non-target animals, including threatened species and pets. These animals often die slowly by drowning, predation, shock, injury, or blood loss, and if they are found alive, they are frequently clubbed or suffocated to preserve the pelt's value. Now, Massachusetts has outlawed the use of snares along with body gripping, leg hold, and conibear traps, but unfortunately their use is still prevalent elsewhere in the United States. Next slide. The fur industry hurts the environment. Fur farms require vast amounts of feed and water and produce massive amounts of manure. This contaminates soil and waterways. Fur production requires the use of toxic chemicals like formaldehyde and chromium, which are also potential pollutants. And I know Sherborn cannot solve the world's environmental problems, but this bylaw will be a step in the right direction. Next slide. Fur production spreads COVID-19 and possibly other infectious diseases. You may have heard last summer that COVID-19 spread throughout hundreds of fur farms across Europe, as well as fur farms in Utah, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Oregon. Research shows that farmed mink spread mutated viruses to humans, and these mutations might reduce the efficacy of the COVID-19 vaccines. These health risks led European governments to kill nearly 20 million minks in order to protect the public health. France and the Netherlands have banned fur farming, and Israel has banned the fur trade. Next slide, please. Good news is that cruelty-free alternatives exist. Today, faux fur is considered virtually indistinguishable from animal fur and is preferred by many fashion designers. Over 300 fashion brands and retailers across the globe are now fur-free. Next slide, please. Support for the fur ban will align Sherborn with over 80% of the state's population on an issue of animal cruelty and environmental damage at a staggering scale. Fur bans have been passed in California and recently in Wellesley. So hopefully with your support of this bylaw, we'll get it passed here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette. So the article has been moved, seconded. We've had a presentation. Is there any discussion? Marion?
Yes, I have a comment. It's really not clear what we're voting on with this bylaw as stated by advisory and the select board. I understand why advisory and select board did not come down with a clear recommendation either before or against. Obviously, none of us are for animal cruelty. I don't think so. And all of us want such a control to be in Sherborn. However, especially speaking as a planning board member, normally articles that are going to be placed in the bylaw or in the zoning bylaws are vetted carefully through committees until the language is such that we get exactly what we want in concise terms, fulfilling the intent of the bylaw and avoiding any unintended consequences. And we've been through this many times with bylaw, and the process is very good. We end up with bylaws that are economical and well stated. So this bylaw leaves me personally in a conundrum. If I vote no, people will think I'm for animal cruelty, which is the last thing that I want anyone to think of me. I very much support the intent of the bylaw. But if I vote yes, we have voted all of this language into our bylaws without vetting it first. So given the fact that this is not an impending emergency in Sherborn, I'll have to vote no, but only because I think it should be vetted first. Thank you.
Thank you. George?
Yes, thank you. George Fisk, 27 Hollis Street. And I'm not offering a position on this article at this point, but I did receive an email earlier in this meeting from a longtime farmer who's unable to be here today. And the question was posed from this farmer who has been raising sheep for many years. And the processing, and it's for wool, but it's for meat as well, takes place in New Hampshire. And in some instances, the hides are sent down to Pennsylvania for tanning and then brought back here for sale. And the question I pose, or she is posing, is simply, does this bylaw prohibit that activity?
No, it does not. This bylaw has a provision to exclude cowhide, leather, shearling. It's really just the fur from the fur-bearing animals.
Robert?
I've been in town for a bit over 50 years. I believe I've attended every town meeting in those 50 years. It's possible I missed one sometime when I was abroad, but I don't know it. And this is the first time that I can recall that the advisory committee has ever made no recommendation. So I think that points out there's something special about this article, and that is that it doesn't affect us. And where it doesn't affect us, I'm against having non-effective stuff cluttering up our bylaws. So I am opposed to this because I don't want our bylaws to be cluttered up with ineffective stuff. And I am not about to take one of our cats and make a hat out of it.
Thank you, Robert. Steve?
Hi, I'm Steve Leahy, Woodland Street. I'm also a member of the advisory committee. I guess I would like to say that, to mimic what Marion and Robert said, I personally am against the use of fur for clothing. However, I'm here today to make note that the use of government and laws is not intended to take one's moral opinions and apply it as law to one's fellow citizens. If you don't want to have shops in town that sell fur, if you don't want to have fur in town, there's a very easy way to do that. Don't purchase it and don't wear it. However, using town laws, bylaws, or any form of government to impose one's moral opinion on others seems like the improper use of laws. And so while I will be voting against this law, this bylaw, I would tell you that I would vote against any bylaw that anyone puts out that seeks to create law out of one's moral opinion, whether I was in agreement with that moral opinion myself or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank, please, no.
Frank Hook, Town Line Road. I just really have a question. There are businesses that sell fur-based products in the area that might not be something that was just recently produced. It might be of a second-hand or second-time-around nature. How would this bylaw affect that?
Jeanette?
This bylaw does not affect used fur. It's only on new fur products. So any secondhand shops or the swap shop or anything like that, if it is a used fur, it is not included in this bylaw.
Susie?
Susan Tyler, 26 Western Avenue. I have to say, I agree with the comments that were made by the planning board, where we're trying to regulate businesses and zoning in the town, and yet this has not been vetted. And we've all of us that are sitting here, the majority of us, have paid attention to how much detail, how much thought, and how many hearings are put into anything with the zoning changes. And we're proposing to say, we can't have any of these stores that do not exist at this time. And I noticed that the penalty here is $300 for each and every offense. That's more than the one that you just voted on for the jake brake systems on the trucks. And we don't even have a store to do this. And again, I second the other comment. I do not need a bylaw to tell me my moral compass as to what I should do. Thank you.
Marion?
Yes, I have a different comment from my previous one, not from Susan, that there are other ways to fulfill the intent of this bylaw, which I support, that could be worked out with select board or planning board. For example, there's a section of our zoning bylaws that deals with permitted and non-permitted uses in different sections of the town. One can make it a non-permissive use within the zoning bylaw, but we at planning board never heard about this before the run-up to the town meeting. So I would just encourage the proponents to come back to town boards and let us help you frame a bylaw, if it's appropriate, that fulfills your intent. Thanks.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, then.
Can I have 2 minutes?
I'm sorry?
Can I have my 2-minute rebuttal?
Sure.
Okay, I just want to say that this is a grassroots effort. This is a chance where your individual voice will be heard, and our voice collectively as a community will be heard. And what we're saying is that this is unacceptable treatment. We want to provide for a more humane environment for all species of animals. And Wellesley has passed this. Hopefully Weston will pass it later today. And it's a grassroots effort getting the word out. It is not just a feel-good law. Sherborn will pass it, and Middles will say, wow, look what happened in Sherborn. Medfield will say, and this is how change happens. This is how change happens, is by these small grassroots efforts by people standing up and saying, no, this is wrong, and we do not want this in our town.
Thank you. Daryl, were you approaching the mic or just standing? We'll decide fast.
So Daryl Beardsley as Board of Health. If this was something that was going to be vetted with the town or addressed under planning, it would certainly be of interest to the Board of Health, given the environmental concerns you mentioned and chemical use and what happened, fate of those chemicals. So, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more comments? Okay, the article has been moved and seconded. Discussion is closed. Please vote now. One, 47 votes in favor, 107 votes against, motion fails. Article 19, citizen petition for adding new general bylaw, Chapter 32, pet shop sales. Ms. Matarazzo.
Madam Moderator, in light of the sponsor's stated desire to withdraw this article at this time and to amend the language of the article and reintroduce it at a future town meeting, I move that no action be taken.
Second.
The motion has been made for no action and it has been seconded. Is there any discussion? All right. I would point out again that this is a vote for no action. This is a negative motion. So if you are in favor of taking no action, you want to vote yes. If you are against taking no action, you want to vote no. Are there any questions about how you should be voting depending on your preference? All right, then please vote now. There it is. It starts recording before the timer gets up there. So. The move for no action passes 139 to 9. We have conducted our business here today, and so I would like to get a motion to adjourn the meeting. And a second?
Second.
All right, thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned at 1:02 p.m. Thank you all.